Lingered on my hands as I quietly adjusted the silverware on the dining table for the 10th time. My sister, Amanda, strutted past me in her high heels, smirking like she owned the world. And maybe at that moment, she truly believed she did. "Could you not scratch the mahogany, Mia?" she said, with an exaggerated sigh. "This isn't your little cleaning gig anymore. This is my home now." My spine straightened. The audacity. The nerve. But I said nothing. She leaned closer, her breath laced with wine, and added in a venomous whisper, "You're just the family maid now. That's what you're good at, isn't it?" The words stung, but they weren't new. Amanda had always played queen since the day our dad fell ill. She'd managed to be there for the photo ops, the supportive daughter headlines, while I was the one doing the actual work, cooking, lifting him, cleaning up after him when he couldn't even hold down water. But none of that mattered to Amanda. Not anymore. Because earlier that week, the will had arrived. And she had already told everyone. Dad left everything to me, she had announced over dinner with a smug tilt of her head. I mean, of course he did. Mia's better off doing what she loves, scrubbing toilets. Laughter had followed. I didn't even look up. Let them laugh. I finished polishing the final spoon, set it down, and turned to leave the room. "Oh, and Mia?" Amanda called after me. "Wear something clean to the will reading tomorrow. You don't want the lawyer thinking you still live in the utility closet." I closed my eyes and breathed in deeply. Let her feel victorious. Let her feel safe. Because the truth? Dad had always been a quiet man, but he wasn't blind. And before he passed, he called me into his room, handed me a folded letter, and simply said, "Read this only when she opens her mouth." That letter still sat in my purse. Unopened. Burning. The next morning, sunlight didn't just break. It crashed through the windows of the lawyer's downtown office. A long, polished mahogany table separated Amanda and me. She wore a cream power suit like she was already being crowned CEO of the family legacy. I wore a dark blue dress, simple, clean, respectful. Beside us sat Mr. Langston, our family's lawyer, flipping through the pages of the will. He was an older man, with half-moon glasses and a calm presence that had always reminded me of a quiet storm, still, but never powerless. Amanda couldn't wait. "So, is there a ceremony?" she laughed, twirling her earring. "Do I get a certificate or just the keys?" Langston didn't flinch. He turned the page, cleared his throat, and said, "As per Mr. Raymond Bellamy's instructions, the estate, including the house, financial assets, and business holdings, were to be reviewed thoroughly before reading." And he paused. Amanda grinned wider. "And it appears," Langston said, looking up now, directly at her, "that your father had a different plan." Her face faltered. "What?" Amanda's voice cracked. "What do you mean a different plan?" Langston didn't answer with words. He reached into his briefcase, pulled out a sealed envelope, and turned to me. "Mia, your father instructed this be opened in your presence and hers, and read aloud only when Amanda begins to make premature claims about the inheritance." My hands shook as I accepted the envelope. Amanda stood up. "What the hell is going on?" I opened it. My father's handwriting spilled across the page, and I began to read. "To my daughters, if you are reading this, then Amanda has once again put herself first. I've watched it all my life, her charm, her ambition, her performance. And I watched Mia clean up the mess behind it, quietly, without applause. Amanda, I love you. But loving someone doesn't mean rewarding arrogance. Mia, everything I have, every cent, every brick, every ounce of legacy is yours. I know you never wanted the spotlight, but I've seen your sacrifices. I've seen your strength. And now, the world should see it too. Amanda, you may remain in the house for 3 months. After that, you'll need to find your own path." Dad. Silence. Dead. Crushing. Beautiful silence. Amanda's lips parted, but no sound came. Her hands trembled. Her shoulders sank. Langston added gently, "It's all been legally processed. The titles are already in Mia's name. Your father requested no contest be allowed." Amanda blinked rapidly. But I cared for him too. I finally looked up and said, softly, I know, in your own way, but care isn't always about grand gestures. She sat down slowly. The silence wasn't triumphant. It wasn't cruel. It was the sound of reality shifting. And I wasn't angry. I wasn't even gloating. I was just free. Amanda didn't speak for a long time after that. Her once perfect posture slumped as she stared blankly at the will in Langston's hands. Her eyes were distant, almost searching the room for an explanation that wasn't there. I remained still. My chest wasn't swelling with victory, it was aching. Because somewhere beneath the years of her insults and cruelty, she was still my sister. And now, stripped of the image she'd built for herself, she looked lost. Langston broke the silence with gentle professionalism. I'll file the necessary documents this afternoon, Mia. You'll have access to the accounts by tomorrow morning, and the keys to the estate safes and vaults are already secured for you. Amanda snapped out of her daze. No, this can't be happening. She turned to me suddenly. You knew, didn't you? All this time. You just played along. I didn't play anything. I replied calmly, my voice steady. I honored Dad's wishes. He asked me to wait until you said your piece first. Her lip trembled. For the first time, I saw something real behind her eyes. Not arrogance. Not scorn. Fear. What am I supposed to do now? She whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Everything I built was around this house. Around being the one in charge. Langston stood and quietly excused himself, closing the office door gently behind him. I took a deep breath and leaned forward, folding my hands on the table. Maybe now you can start building something real, Amanda. Something of your own. She stared at me like I had spoken in another language. You don't get it, she said bitterly. You never wanted the spotlight. You were always content being invisible. I had to shine to be seen. To be anything. My heart cracked a little. Because even though it didn't excuse what she did, the lies, the mockery, the way she paraded herself like royalty, I understood her now. Dad saw through it. I didn't realize until that moment just how deeply he'd seen us both. I stood and reached for my coat. 3 months, Amanda. You have time to figure it out. If you want help finding something or somewhere to go, I won't shut the door on you. She scoffed. Still trying to be the bigger person, huh? No, I said, pausing by the door. Just trying not to become the kind of person who needed a will to be reminded of kindness. I left her with that. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked through the estate in silence, barefoot on the cold marble floors, running my hand along the old oak banister. This was the house Amanda and I had grown up in. The one where our childhood laughter once echoed between these walls, before ambition split us like lightning cracking a tree. In Dad's study, everything was just as he left it. Books lined the walls like old friends. His desk still held the worn leather journal where he kept his thoughts, observations, and notes on the people he cared about. I opened it, and there, beneath a sketch of our family garden, he'd written, Mia's strength is quiet. The world mistakes it for weakness. Amanda's fire burns bright, but without direction, it consumes. I love them both, but one day, only one will be able to carry this legacy forward. I hope I choose right, not just for the estate, but for them. Maybe, just maybe, this choice will bring them back together someday. I touched the ink with my fingers, and something inside me broke, softly. Not in grief, but in understanding. 3 days later, the locks were changed, and the estate was officially mine. Amanda was still living in the guest wing, packing slowly, her pride bleeding out of her more with each passing hour. She avoided me in the halls, only speaking when necessary. But then, one morning, I found a note slipped under my door. Asterisk, Mia. I still don't understand why he did it. Maybe I never will. Maybe he saw something in you that I didn't. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want to try. Amanda, asterisk. I folded it quietly, placed it in the drawer beside Dad's journal, and looked out the window. Maybe this story wasn't just about what Dad left behind. Maybe it was about what we could still rebuild. The sky was overcast when I stepped into the garden, Dad's favorite place. A soft drizzle tapped the petals of the roses he once tended so delicately. I stood there for a long while, barefoot in the grass, breathing in the scent of wet earth and faded memories. Amanda's note still weighed heavy in my pocket. I had spent years thinking she was too far gone, too hardened by the world she tried to conquer. But that note? That was the first real thing she'd given me in a long, long time. I heard footsteps crunch the gravel behind me. "I figured I'd find you here," Amanda said, her voice softer than usual. She was holding a cardboard box in her arms, filled with framed photos, jewelry, and what looked like a faded scarf from our mother. "Leaving today?" I asked without turning around. "I think it's time." I nodded slowly. "You don't have to rush." She let out a quiet laugh. "If I stay here any longer, I'll start pretending it still belongs to me. Old habits die hard." Finally, I turned to face her. She looked different. Still beautiful, still put together. But something in her eyes had shifted. The sharpness was gone, replaced by something I couldn't quite place. Shame? Humility? Maybe even hope. "Do you remember when we used to play dress-up in Dad's library?" I asked. Her eyes lit up with reluctant amusement. "And you'd always wear the gardening hat and pretend to be the estate keeper?" I smiled. "And you'd sit in Dad's leather chair and pretend to fire me." She rolled her eyes. "Some things don't change, I guess." "Maybe some things should," I said gently. Amanda's smile faltered. "I don't know how to be someone different, Mia. I've been performing for so long, I forgot who I really am under it all." "Then let yourself figure it out. You don't have to pretend around me anymore." She hesitated, then asked, "Do you hate me?" That question, it landed heavier than all her past cruelty combined. "No," I said, surprising even myself with how quickly the word came out. "I pitied you. Then I resented you. Now, I just want peace. For both of us." Amanda's lips trembled. "I treated you like trash," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I said things no sister should say. I acted like I was better, because it was easier than admitting I was scared of being nothing." I stepped forward and took the box from her arms. Not out of obligation, but out of choice. "You don't have to carry this alone," I said. Her shoulders crumpled. And just like that, Amanda, who had once smirked as she called me the family maid, collapsed into my arms, crying in the garden we used to chase each other through as kids. We stayed that way for minutes. Hours, maybe. I lost track. Because healing doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It shows up quietly, like the rain, and washes away the dust if you let it. The next week, Amanda moved out of the house. Not with defiance, but with quiet dignity. She rented a small apartment across town, started volunteering at a local nonprofit, something about helping women who'd lost everything to bad marriages and financial abuse. I didn't question it. Everyone has to start somewhere. And this time, she was starting with truth. I didn't flaunt the inheritance. I didn't throw parties or redecorate the house to erase the past. Instead, I focused on restoring what had been neglected: Dad's greenhouse, the rusted fountain in the courtyard, the dusty shelves of the library. Each item I cleaned, each space I revived, felt like breathing life back into something sacred. But there was still one thing I hadn't touched: Dad's old office safe. It was hidden behind a sliding panel in the wall, known only to me, Amanda, and Langston. The key had been in the envelope with the letter, but I hadn't dared open it, not until now. I turned the brass dial slowly, heart racing, hands clammy. Click. Inside, I found an old wooden box. On top sat a single note, written in Dad's familiar, slanted handwriting. "For when you are ready, Mia. You were always the one meant to lead. Not because you demanded it, but because you didn't need to. Inside this box are the blueprints to something greater than just this estate. A vision we never finished. You're the only one who can." My breath caught as I lifted the lid. Inside were hand-drawn plans, decades old, for a community center, built on the edge of our land. A sanctuary for people in need. Women, children, the elderly. A place of refuge and rebuilding. Tears streamed down my face. Because Dad hadn't just left me the estate. He'd left me a purpose. A month had passed. Amanda hadn't called. I hadn't reached out either. But this morning, I saw her name pop up on my phone. "Can we meet?" her message read. "I have something to say. No drama. Just truth." I hesitated, then replied, "Come by."
Garden.
6 p.m. The sky turned golden as she arrived, standing in the same spot where everything had crumbled and begun to heal. She looked nervous but composed. "I've been working at the center downtown," she said, fiddling with her sleeve. "You know, helping people. I thought it would make me feel better. But it's not about me." I nodded, listening. "I saw a girl yesterday," Amanda went on, her voice low. "She reminded me of you. Quiet. Cleaning tables while everyone ignored her. But her eyes, they saw everything." She looked up at me. "I finally get what Dad saw in you." My throat tightened. "I'm not asking for anything," she added. "But if there's ever a way I can help build what he dreamed of, I want in." I didn't answer right away. I just reached into my coat pocket and handed her a folded blueprint. Amanda opened it slowly, eyes widening. "Dad's vision." She looked at me, stunned. "You're actually doing this?" I smiled. "We're doing this." And for the first time in years, she didn't smile out of pride. She smiled out of peace. The foundation ceremony came 6 weeks later. The Bellamy Center for Renewal. That's what we named it. Not just a building. A place where broken things, people, dreams, relationships could find the courage to rebuild. Amanda stood beside me that morning, helping set up chairs, not wearing designer clothes, not hiding behind a perfect smile, but grounded, real.
Changed.
Some people whispered, "Isn't she the one who thought she inherited everything?" Others asked, "Why is she here now?" But I didn't let their voices shape our story. Because people change. Not always. Not easily. But sometimes beautifully. The media had shown up, curious about the wealthy estate heir who wasn't throwing galas, but building something humble and healing. I kept my speech short. My father taught me that strength doesn't always raise its voice. Sometimes it just listens quietly, builds slowly, and chooses forgiveness even when revenge would feel sweeter. Amanda looked down at her shoes when I said that. But I knew she understood. After the applause faded and the cameras clicked away, she came up to me near the edge of the new garden. "You could have kicked me out, left me with nothing."
Rubbed it in, she said.
"But instead, you let me stand here." I turned to her. "You didn't need punishment, Amanda. You needed purpose." Her eyes welled. "I still have a lot to make up for." "You're doing it," I said softly. "Not with words. With actions."
She swallowed hard.
"I still have one more thing to say." I waited. "I'm proud of you, Mia. I always have been. I just didn't know how to show it without feeling small next to you." That hit me harder than I expected. All those years, I thought she hated me, envied me, but really, she feared being unseen. I hugged her, and for the first time in our entire lives, she hugged me back without walls, without competition, without shame. Just love. 1 year later, the center was full. A warm hum of life. Laughter. Music. Kids running through the courtyard. Amanda managed the vocational program. I ran the gardens, the grief groups, and the financial aid office. Every now and then, she'd still slip into her old habits. Bossy, sharp, quick with opinions. But now I didn't flinch. Now she listened when I spoke. We worked side by side. People still asked why I didn't take the money and disappear. Why I let her back in. And I always said the same thing. I didn't win anything. I just refused to lose the parts that still had hope. Because